welcome back to part 2 of lists and links for our ex4 exercise. And what I'm going to do next is we'll put our image in here. Since it's pretty boring the way it is right now, we'll at least get our image in there. That's the one you worked on in ex3, and hopefully it's in your images folder. Hopefully you could open that up and see it there. If it's not, make sure you get it in there, and make sure, keep in mind what the name is. So it's ex4 header. That's what we said we were going to call it. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it in our page above the H1. So I'm just going to go here above the H1 and hit return. Now to put an image in your page, we're just going to do an img tag. It's an image tag. Now I could just put that. Notice it was red before I closed it, but if I close that tag, and this is also a self-closing tag. The image element is just an image. So right now that's actually fine, except I didn't really put what the image is, where it is, or any other attributes that go with it. So I'm going to have to do that next. So I'm just going to backspace and I'll do image, and what we do to indicate where and what the image is we use an attribute called source. It's src. So I'm going to do image source src, and then it's coming up here, and if I click on it, it puts equals there, and then it brings up a little drop down, and I could click on images and it shows me my ex4 header. So it's putting that there. Well, I could do one thing now. I could close it up and it would probably show my image if I did that right now, and I could. So let's take a look at it. There it is. Let me save this. I should save this, and then I'll go back and I'll refresh it, and there it is. So it's working just like that. That's fine. It's actually working. But what we should do, and what I recommend you do, we're going to put a couple other attributes in here. One is going to be an alt tag. That's kind of like a usability thing for people who can't view images but who may use text-to-speech software. So we're going to use an alt tag, and we're basically just going to put in just a description of what this is. So if the text-to-speech software would come across this image, it would just kind of say what it is. And I'm just going to put a header pic. That way they at least know what it is. It's not that important if they're just looking for the text for this page, but we're just saying it's a header pic. Otherwise they may not know what it is, but if they know it's a header pic, it's something they can ignore right now if they needed to. So that's one attribute and value. Remember, this is attribute value. Attribute value. Whenever you see an equal sign, it means there's an attribute and a value. This is an attribute and a value. That's an attribute and a value. The next attribute that we'll use here is just going to be our width and height. So we're just going to put in our width and height. It's recommended to put this in. Notice it worked without it, but we're going to put it in. We're going to put width. Now, if you forget what your width and height is, just click on your image here, and it's 800 by 280. That's what mine was. Yours might have been a little bit different, but mine's 800 by 280. So the width is going to equal, now with HTML, this goes in quotes, but we don't put px in here. We're just going to put 800. It's assumed that it's pixels, so we don't put anything else in here. And we just put space between here. We don't put commas or anything. And then I'll just put in height, and I'll put equals, and then in quotes I'll put 280. Now you can change the size. If I happen to put a size of like 80, let's just say by accident I forgot the 2 in there, and I save this, and then I go to take a look at it and I refresh it, it's going to squash it down. You don't want your browser doing that, though. You don't want to be resizing images with your browser code. You can, but you want to be putting in the proper sizes. You want to make it the correct size ahead of time and not be forcing your browser to do that. It's not very efficient. It'll take your pages will take longer to load, so you don't want to do that. So make sure you do put in this size, though, so 800 by 280. If you did need to alter it slightly, you could use that as a way to do that, but you don't want to get like a small image and like enlarge it. You also don't want to take a large image and then make it real small, because then it still has to download that large image. It might take longer to download a larger image. Okay, so that's our image. That's all we need. We have our image source, which tells you what folder it's in. If it's in a folder, if it's not in a folder, it would just say ex4 header if it was in the same directory. But it says it's in images / it means go in this folder and then look for ex4 header.jpg, and it's all in quotes. There's an alt tag that just says, hey, this is a header pic, and then we have our width and height, and that's all we need for that. So that's our image source. And now in our list, I'm just going to put some elements here. I'll just type in some things, and I'm just going to type in some shows here. So I'm going to put in like Stranger Things. Okay, I typed in my line items, and in between these tags I put Stranger Things, I put the OA, and Goliath. I think Goliath was from Amazon Prime. And down here I put some things I missed during the winter: sitting outside, smell of cut grass, sound of birds and insects, and sunlight after 5 p.m. So those are things I enjoy more about the summer. So anyway, that's what I have for my list. Now, I'm not going to do anything with the unordered list, but I am going to link these. So the next thing I'm going to do is try to link these things so they open up in a new page. Now, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go, so I'll just go to Stranger Things, and it should, one of the ones you should see is probably like a Wikipedia, or you might see these Internet Movie Databases. I'm just going to use the Wikipedia, and there's the link to it, so it shows all the information about this show. And I'm just going to copy the URL. This is the address up here. I'm going to copy it. I'll do a Command-C on a Mac, Control-V on Windows. I'll copy that. And what I'm going to do is go back to my code, and I'm going to link this. Now, to make a link, I'm going to link this word, Stranger Things. So that means I'm going to wrap a link tag or an anchor tag around Stranger Things. So I'm going to start off with it. That's actually an A tag. And if I put a bracket, it's one of the first things that come up. And I'm going to do an A, and then what you have to do is put something called a ref, href. And that basically means that's the reference of the anchor. So that's where I'm really going to, that's really almost an attribute. So that's where I'm going to put my link. So I'll put equals. Now, I don't have a closing, so it's showing up red here. I don't have a closing. What I'm going to put in here is I'm just going to paste that. So I'll paste that link inside those quotes. And I'll close up my link right now. So there's an opening A tag, and it kind of finishes up. It's not closed, but it ends the tag right there. So I'm going to put a closing tag here, and if I just do a less than sign and a slash, it'll close up my A tag. So there's my opening A tag and a closing, and it just closes with just an A. The opening A tag is very big. It has a ref in it. It has my link, and I could put other attributes and values in here as well. But this will actually work right now. If I tried this out, if I saved it, and I went back to my Chrome over here and I refreshed, you can see there's a link there. And if I click on it, it's actually going to open in the same tab, and I'm going to have to hit my back button to go back. But it is linked right now. You can see I have the link finger, and it's working. So that's working right now. Now, one other thing I'm going to do with this, I'm going to put an attribute called target equals blank. And what this does is it's going to allow it to open up in a new tab. So I'm going to choose blank here. And it's going to put in the quotes and the blank in there. So that means it's going to open up in a new tab. So that's linked right now. If I save that and I go back and I click on my link, it should open up in a new tab. See, there's my original tab, there's my new tab. If I close it, it goes back to where I was. So what I could do now is I'm actually going to copy. See, we had to type all this code here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy my opening A link, or my opening A tag. I'll copy it and I'll put it in front of this one. I'll paste it, and I'll put it in front of this one, and I'll paste it. And then I'll copy my closing one, and I'll copy it, and I'll paste it, and it goes right in front of the LI. So I'll paste one there, and I'll paste one there. So that means these are all linked right now, except if I save it, what happens is they're all linked to the same place. If I refresh this, I can see they're all linked to the same place. If I click on the OA, it still goes to Stranger Things because I haven't changed my link. So let me change it. I'll go to my other Chrome, and I'll just type in the OA. I'll just bring up another Wikipedia, and I'll just copy the URL, and I'll go back to my code, and I'll just paste it in, and I'll paste it over top of the other one, and I have to go right inside the quotes. So I want to go inside the quotes there, and I'll just paste it inside the quotes. And that's all I need there. And then I'll go back and I'll search for Goliath. And I'll use the same thing. I'll just use all Wikipedias. And I'll highlight the URL. And I'll go back. And this time, again, I'll paste it inside the quotes. So the only thing that's changing on all these is basically the address that it's going to. It still has target blank, it's still using a ref, and it still has the opening and closing. So I'll save that, I'll refresh this, and I'll just check that OA opens in its own tab, and then Goliath opens in its own tab. So those links work, so they work okay. we're in good shape. We're going to do some other structure in our HTML, and then we're going to do some CSS. But for now, all I'm looking for you to do is basically just get this set up. So it should look pretty much like this, like what I have. It should have an image, it should have an H1, it should have 3 paragraphs, including a copyright, and then it should have 2 lists, one with numbers, one with bullets, and when you click on the links, they should open up in a new tab. And if that works, then you're good. For the next video, we'll just review uploading your ex4 folder with the contents that you have so far.